Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another Spoilon Saturday. I hope you're all doing amazing. Today, we have a little bit of a continuation video from last weekend because I want to tell you that I do have some new news related to some rumors that I've heard about the upcoming December team. And that, if you remember from last weekend, we talked a little bit about Storm. And I think maybe some other characters, I forgot what I was fully talking about. Maybe other characters that had posed reworks, things like that, or other characters for a new mutant team. And so I want to go over these new rumors that I've heard in terms of, well, what specifically that it might actually be. And some of what we talked about in that video is actually what it's going to be. So if you're ready to find out more, then let's boil this down. Okay, so I want to get started here because I did mention this in my last video, and it turns out that this is where things are headed. So, what we're going to be having in December, as far as I'm aware, is going to be a mutant team, no brainer, of course, that is going to be related to the Quiet Council of Krakoa. Now we are in the Krakoa era of the Marvel Strike Force storyline with the Age of X and Professor Xavier and all that. We're getting a lot of things right now related to Krakoa. We had the Orcus team as well, and they're directly related to them as well as far as being enemies of mutant kind, that kind of thing. And so they're continuing on in this fashion into December, or maybe late November into December, that kind of thing, after Astral has passed, and with characters that are related to the Quiet Council. Now, from what I understand, it is going to be an X-Men tag. It's going to be presumably a hero team, right? Because I don't think there's been any time in Marvel Strike Force where we've had an X-Men, astonishing X-Men, uncanny X-Men, extreme X-Men. I don't think there's been a single villain on any of them. So I think that can really break it down and, make the list shorter in terms of what characters might go on this team. Now, I don't know 100% who those characters are going to be, but given that we know kind of what the theme of the team is going to be, I think it makes it a lot easier to start breaking this down. Now, one thing that I can say though is I'm 90% sure the Storm is going to be involved on this team. Now, not enough for me to do what I would call a Boilon guarantee. I'm not going to suddenly boost Storm up to 95 G18 because I don't have that level of confidence yet, but I am almost certain that this will happen. I guess the other thing too is that I need my gold for Astral. So if I'm more sure about it in like a week or two, or whenever, I will put that gold down just to show you guys that I'm willing to do that. But the Astral characters are around the corner, and I don't spend much on passes, so I really do need this gold for those characters. That being said, I still think that this is going to happen, but the next question is, based on the Quiet Council, you can see some of the photos here. This is actually, I think this is a newer photo from like, I don't know. There was, so the Quiet Council or the Krakoa era, I believe is like from 2020, maybe 2021 onwards. I forget. And it's kind of recently, they're not on the island of Krakoa anymore. It's kind of dispersed a little bit in the comics. It's not exactly, there is no Quiet Council as far as I'm aware really anymore, or they've, like I said, they dispersed into different characters. So a lot of the characters that we're going to be looking at are quote unquote former members of the Quiet Council. But one thing that I wanted to draw your attention to, and where I think that a team tag could be with this team, knowing that it's kind of a more hero-based team, that it's going to be an X-Men team. That's what I was told as well, that it's going to have an X-Men team name, right? It's not going to be called the Quiet Council. It's going to be called something something X-Men. And so I was doing some digging, and I've actually read some of these comic runs as well. And I got on to the Immortal X-Men, because this is a comic line that is directly related to the Quiet Council. Like the first couple of issues, which I have actually in my room, is directly related to the Quiet Council. It does go on a little bit further after that, but you can see some of the characters here on the covers who are actually on the Quiet Council. Most of them are actually. I'm not going to really dive too much into this. I need to get back into reading some of this because it's actually pretty good. But Immortal X-Men kind of stands out to me, and Storm is on is in the comics of Immortal X-Men, also on the Quiet Council. And so I'm thinking, from like a hero perspective, right? Now, let's also think that, and we'll get into this maybe in a little bit, that, they tend to do a couple of out of the box picks, right? Even for Astral, we got Moondragon. I totally wasn't expecting that. When I had heard originally that it was going to be Mutant Psionics, we still did get that with Emma Frost, but we didn't get it really, and I guess Shadow King, but we didn't really get it for as much as I thought that it was going to be. I didn't really expect characters like Doctor Strange, Moondragon. Is she a Psionic? I think is she? I think she's a Psionic, isn't she? Well, anyways, it doesn't really. I don't really know too much about Moondragon, but Doctor Strange and Ancient One for me was a bit of a left field pick. So as far as reworks go, we're gonna really have to dive into the X-Men tag and kind of think about this a little bit. But first, I want to talk about something that I might think might happen, and I don't have confirmation on this. But Kate Pride, or I think in this run she went by Kate Pride. It's Kitty Pride, but she had like a new awakening of sorts. This is her Marauders version of her kind of piratey kind of costume. She was the leader of the Marauders in these comic runs, and we actually have that in game right now with Bishop. Now, I'm not sure if Bishop's going to get a rework or not, but anyways, he does have, this is his Marauders appearance in those comic runs. So I thought it was actually pretty cool that we do have a costume for one of the characters from that. But I think that we could get a new Kitty Pride, not the old Kitty Pride. I mean, maybe, but I think that they've proven with Emma that they're okay with making brand new characters of existing characters, and they've kind of done that before too. But we're seeing this a little bit more because they don't want to have to bother figuring out how to rework some of these, and it's just easier for the kits and stuff like that to just make a brand new character, right? So I'm thinking as far as new characters go, might be a potential possibility there. We also have this photo here of Kate Pride on the Marauders deck here, and these are the characters. I think this was the first run actually. I think that was Callisto in the back. Tempo, I think, Pyro, Iceman, Bishop, and then Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw were quite heavily in this run as well. The next character that I think could be a possibility is Doug Ramsey. Now, don't look at this on the side. So apparently, this is very recent. So apparently, TLDR, Doug Ramsey, who is from the New Mutants, otherwise known as Cipher, he is now apparently Apocalypse, or he's like Apocalypse's heir. Crazy storyline. I'm not going to really get into detail about this. He goes by the name of Revelation now, but that's not the one. That's not the version of him that I am actually talking about. Talking about the New Mutants version. Oh, Cipher. Cipher is or Doug Ramsey is very important to the Krakoa story, and particularly the Quiet Council, because he has his mutant power is basically like, I think he's an linguist. He can literally speak to anything, and he's the one involved with speaking to the island of Krakoa, which is like a tree of some organic uh species, I suppose, and so that's his job on the Quiet Council, is that he communicates with Krakoa, and they go back and forth, and the Krakoa expresses its desires or whatever, right? And so what you're seeing right here is him, I guess, fused together with Warlock. Now, Warlock is a Phalanx member of the Phalanx race. Why am I talking about this? Because in the Annihilator storyline, they actually directly do a reference to the Phalanx race. And they have been known from time to time to bring up Easter eggs in the dialogue of the story. And that's where I think that there could be this connection here, at least to Warlock. But I don't know if they would make him. I don't think they would make him his own character. So you could see some sort of combination of Cipher, Doug Ramsey with Warlock as like a arm attachment, like is seen here, because they're often seen together. They're very good friends, and he doesn't really have Cipher doesn't really have any fighting prowess. Like he doesn't really have mutant powers that are kind of related to fighting. And so I could definitely see this as a combination. I don't know if they'd make him a mutant tech character or if they just make him a mutant, because you could argue that, well, this is kind of tech-ish, I suppose, the Phalanx race, that kind of thing. So I think the Cipher definitely could be on this list. He could be a really cool new character. Now, thirdly, I want to talk about Hope Summers. I think I talked about Hope Summers last weekend, but I want to talk about it again because as far as new characters go, once you delete all the villain characters off of the Quiet Council, there's not that many left, and so I really want to bring up Hope Summers again. She was a really important member of the Krakoa community of the Quiet Council, because of her origins and her story. Something to be like a messiah. That she was known, even mutants such as Exodus and other big villain mutants referred to Hope Summers as the Messiah. You know, it has to do with the Phoenix powers, that she was impregnated through the Phoenix. And I guess she has, I honestly, I don't know her full extent of her powers, but you know, I think there's probably Phoenix related powers there. And so, you know, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Hope Summers, right? You know, Hope Summers. If you look at the list though of the other former members, it is kind of interesting. If you start from the bottom, that would be hero callouts, right? Xavier's not happening. Nightcrawler, not happening. You know, if it's a full mutant team, I think it's a pretty reasonable question to ask what kind of team this is, and I don't know yet. It is getting closer to the time where we might see a mutant raid team replacement, but I don't know if this is necessarily it. Otherwise, it would have to be Cosmic Crucible, because we've had a bunch of war teams. We have the Battle World team. We've had raid teams, Orcus and Night Stalkers, right? So I'm not really sure where we're headed next. I mean, it could be like a Spotlight raid team with Cosmic Crucible. That could be a thing. But as far as other characters here, there is Marvel Girl Jean Grey. That's kind of interesting. The rest of them, I think, are kind of, they're villains. Colossus. So unless we get a rework to Colossus, we'll talk about that in a minute, though. The rest of the characters aren't really hero based, really. And so I think what I've just brought up is the majority of it. But again, I have no official confirmation of any of this. As far as the new characters go, it is speculation at this point. But you know what I can say with more certainty is that this is the theme of the team, and this is the theme that we're getting. And so I want to pivot back to what we have in game, right? And I want to kind of talk about this is the characters that we do have in the game that are X-Men. I suppose there could be non-X-Men affiliated ones, like if you count X-Force and X-Factor, they really should have the X-Men tag as well, just to make it a lot easier for us to filter in game. So you can consider those at the back of your mind. I guess some of the X-Force characters, other than X-23, which does have the X-Men tag, but the others do not. And X-Factor characters like, I guess, Polaris and Multiple Man and Shatterstar and Longshot, right? That's part of X-Factor. And then we have Magic. I would really love a Magic rework. I think she also has very good sort of X-Men callouts and synergy. That would be really good. They have like tons of, like, this is pretty good. Like even now, bury yourself and all X-Men allies for 30%. That's like Hank Pym level of barrier. And there's definitely some callouts here for some of the other characters. She also would work really well with Storm, to be honest, to charge her up, because I'm pretty sure there's some stuff where is the special, right? Apply +5 charged to a max of 20 to self and all chargeable uncanny X-Men allies. So if they keep Storm, the Storm rework, and they keep this charge mechanic going on, it +10 actually with the T4. This is pretty good. She's also piercing. So I could see this being a really good rework if that's the case. Some other characters on the list. Again, I'm not too sure about Kitty. I think they'd probably go for a new character. We got to think left field, right? So characters that are not on the council that very well could still get a rework because they haven't been touched lately. I don't think they want to touch Phoenix. I think for the same reason that I mentioned about Emma Frost, the old Emma Frost, I don't think they want to continue using regular Phoenix anymore. And so I think that's probably off the table. I think if they were going to do something, they would maybe bring in a new gene or something else. That sounds something that they would do. Beast. He is a raid character, right? From Astonishing X-Men. So he actually had both Uncanny X-Men and Astonishing X-Men. We've learned through Doctor Strange that they've been willing to rework characters at least 3 times now. So I wouldn't say that's completely off the table there. And then we get into territories where it's like sort of horseman characters, right? And that's kind of why I kind of thought that Psylocke was going to get a rework with the Astral team, because it made a little bit of sense as far as the theme went. They had been known to want to rework old horseman characters. I don't really see many of these other ones to fit the theme, though. But, you know, they've also proven that they don't always do that. So I honestly can't say which Bishop. Only if they did Kitty Pryde. If they did a new Kitty Pryde, I would say maybe they would do Bishop, because Bishop's also a tank, right? So I'm trying to think about roles of characters and things like that, and not many that I've mentioned would kind of fit that protector role. And so maybe they would go for Bishop and Storm, and then do a new Kitty Pryde, and they would do Cipher and Hope Summers or something like that, right? That's kind of my initial thoughts there. As far as some of the other characters go from the other X tags, I think it's just X-Force and X-Factor, right? So who else is over? There's a Cable. And then long shot shower Polaris. I don't think any of this really makes sense to me as far as the theme goes. Again, they'd be stretching it a little bit, so I'll be in. And if they do a rework to Nightcrawler for this next team that soon, I would be really shocked. But it'd also cripple Extreme X-Men since Nightcrawler is a very important member of that team, and I kind of don't want them to do that because he's already pretty good with that team. I don't want to like already cripple a team that's not even a year old. But we'll have to wait and see, or for when I get more information. But otherwise, I just wanted to share this with you right now. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. Like I said, I'm pretty confident in the team, the team's theme. As far as the approved or the official characters, I don't have that quite yet, but maybe I will in the near future. That's it for now, everybody, for Boilon's. It's not really a spoil on Saturday yet, but it's a teaser Saturday, uh, rumors Saturday, nonetheless. Anyways, that's it for now, and have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Boilon signing out.